A multi-billion-dollar project set to transform Windsor is on pause. Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. Katarina is away tonight. This is CBC Windsor News live at 6. Let's get right to our big story tonight. Most of the construction at the battery plant in Windsor has been halted. First announced last year, this project has been celebrated as the future of the region, but tonight there's some uncertainty around it. TJ Deere joins us live to talk more about this. So TJ, what are people saying about Stellantis and its partner LG Energy Solutions?
Well, it really depends on who you ask, Jason. People I spoke with say that this is a negotiation tactic from Stellantis and LG Energy Solutions to try and get more money from the federal government.
This is the current state of the new electric vehicle battery plant. Hardly any work being done after Stellantis and LG Energy Solutions halted construction, saying the Canadian government has not delivered on the agreement reached last year. The move has shocked the union and auto workers in Windsor.
When the government says they're going to contribute and help out with the cost of that, and then they don't, that's not good for Windsor's economy.
They dangle the carrot in front of us. It's like, you know, the government's got to give the money they promised us.
Hopefully this can pan out and they can continue to carry out with the construction of the EV battery plant.
The local union president says construction is ongoing for part of the plant, but says a deal needs to get done. On Friday, Stellantis and LG announced that they would be implementing what they call contingency plans after accusing the federal government of not delivering on what was agreed to. This plant promises 2,500 jobs with billions of dollars in spin-offs when it opens next year. Today's news made its way up the 401, where Premier Doug Ford said he was concerned.
And we need the federal government to come to the table and show their support like they have all along.
Reaction was also felt further up the highway in Ottawa, where NDP leader Jagmeet Singh raised the issue during question period.
So when will this Liberal government follow through on commitments and get this plant built and ensure those jobs are protected?
Yeah. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
We are counting on Ontario to do its fair share, and we're counting on Stellantis to be reasonable.
Industry watchers say the main reason Stellantis has made this move is because of a piece of legislation passed by the Biden administration, the Inflation Reduction Act. One said this is what influenced Ottawa to subsidize Volkswagen's new $13 billion plant in St. Thomas, Ontario, which has now become a precedent.
I read tweets and headlines that said, "Cough up the money, Trudeau, you did for Volkswagen."
CBC News reached out to Innovation, Science and Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne, who was not available for comment. He's in Seoul with the Prime Minister, where LG is based.
My instinct, and I'm very confident about it, that's why I'm telling you on air, is that over the next couple of days we'll settle this and we'll all start to wonder what we were all worried about.
Now, CBC News has reached out to Stellantis and LG for further comment, but we've yet to hear back. Jason?
Thanks so much, TJ. And the United States plays a big role in this evolving situation, as TJ mentioned, specifically the Inflation Reduction Act. Kristen Dichek is an auto expert with the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. We asked her to break down what the act does.
So the Inflation Reduction Act has a number of things in it, not least of which is monies for making this transition to EVs. There are consumer incentives, there are commercial incentives, and there are investment incentives and production incentives. And the big thing is the production incentive for most folks. It's a section of the law called 45X, and it allows $35 per kilowatt hour produced for cells and an additional $10 if they're in packs. So $45 a kilowatt hour in production credit year after year after year. And some automakers are estimating that this could be $1 billion or more to them per year for the batteries that they'll produce in the United States. It has gotten a lot of interest, and many battery plants were already in process and in progress to come to the U.S. or to North America. But there's been uptick in interest since the 45X became known and available. This law passed last August, but I think many of the investments that have been announced so far were investments anticipating some kind of incentive, and the ones that are coming now are maybe as a result, because it does take a while for a plan to come into place and the investment to be made.
The Windsor-Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce advocates for the interests of businesses in our region. Now let's turn to the president and CEO of the local chamber, Rakesh Naidu. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
So there have been some major developments, as I'm sure you're well aware of, with this planned battery plant in Windsor, with the latest being construction on part of the site stopping. What direct impact does that have on Windsor, do you think?
Well, significant. We're talking of thousands of jobs directly at the plant and a few thousand more in the supply chain once, the plant comes and it's running full stream. So we're looking at a significant impact, not just with this project, but also, about the future of the auto industry. And we know that the future of the auto industry is heavily tilting towards electric vehicle. The importance of a battery assembly plant here is tremendous, not just for Windsor Essex, but I would say for Ontario and for Canada. So this is significant for us.
And what are you hearing from your members, the business owners that you represent in Windsor, about this ongoing situation?
Well, everyone is anxious. You can understand that the business community is keeping a close watch on this. Everyone wants this to continue to move forward. There is tremendous benefits, not just to the auto industry and the suppliers in this industry, but there is so much benefit, the ripple effect of this battery plant. Everybody knows how this region will be impacted and how it will benefit. So there are so many businesses, direct and indirect, that are looking forward to having the battery plant operational. And a disruption like this, it's very understandable that it can create some anxiety.
And Rakesh, what do you think happens next, or what is the way out of this?
Well, I remain very optimistic. I think, the federal government and Stellantis and LG Chem will sit down and will come up with a solution. I have no doubt about that. I believe that negotiations are on, which is a good thing. I would be more worried if the negotiations are off, but I'm told that the negotiations continue, and hence, I'm very optimistic that a solution will be found.
Okay, thanks for your time on this, Rakesh.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Rakesh Naidu is president and CEO of the Windsor Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce. And right now, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is making his way to South Korea. LG Energy Solutions is a partner in the battery plant project with Stellantis. They're based in Seoul. After that visit, they're headed to the G7 summit in Japan. The annual meeting of world leaders is being held in Hiroshima, a location Japan says is appropriate as efforts to stop the Russia-Ukraine war will be discussed.
How do we deal with the fact that products, EU origin products, are still getting into Russia? They just don't go directly from the EU. They're going from other countries. And that's where I think you're going to see a lot of the discussion is how can we clamp down on that.
Canada is expected to focus on boosting support for Ukraine and on climate change. Other issues on the agenda include global security, the economy, and concerns about China's economic and political coercion. The Prime Minister will spend several days on his first official visit to South Korea before the summit starts on Friday. And switching gears to other local news, loud mufflers, blaring sound systems, and other excessive noise from vehicles. That's all caught the attention of Windsor police. Officers have started to target and enforce those types of offenses. But as Dale Molnar tells us, some people at one downtown condo building say it has been a problem that's not easing up.
This is what residents of the Lagoyo condominiums have been subjected to for the past 3 years.
It's just so loud. You go to bed and it wakes you up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back to sleep again. It's just very irritating.
They circle, they park, they just at all hours of the night. It could be 7 p.m., could be 11 p.m., could be 3 or 4 in the morning, and it's continuous every night. Not just weekends, every night.
Joan Charette is the head of the board of directors of the condo. She says they've tried calling police, but they don't come.
We do see them every once in a while. They'll drive by. There's a police car down there right now, but it's the wrong time of day, and it doesn't happen during the afternoon.
Windsor police say they have launched a blitz against excessive noise from vehicles.
So noise is one of the most common complaints that we have by our communities that we receive all year round. So to enforce that and to make it a better community, we make sure we enhance and step up our patrols for the noise to make the citizens of Windsor a happier place to live and reside. The noise campaign, officers are just stepping up their attention and their vigilance to motorists that are attracting undue attention by having excess noise generated from their vehicles.
But Young says police don't use a decibel reader to measure what level of noise is too loud. He says they use their discretion, which apparently is good enough.
The city's noise bylaw spells out how many decibels a vehicle can emit. However, according to a local paralegal, police don't go by the bylaw. They issue tickets based on the Highway Traffic Act, which doesn't spell out specific decibels.
And he says if someone fights the ticket, they could win or they could lose.
It depends on how the officer testifies. It depends on what questions are asked by the paralegal. I've done trials for these and I've won them. I've done trials for these and I've lost them. Well, I think that there should be an actual decibel reader. The police department wants to do this, then they should be getting decibel level meters. And there should be, if you're over this, you're over that.
The fines for getting a ticket for this are $110, but Martin says if your insurance company wants to check your vehicle for excessive noise accessories, they could cancel your insurance. The police noise crackdown goes until September. CBC has reached out to Windsor Police about the riverfront noise problem and are awaiting a response. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario says 3/4 of its members have experienced or witnessed violence against staff members. That number is even higher for those working in special education. The union says the system is underfunded and under-resourced. Talia Ricci reports.
Teachers and special education workers say the survey results paint a picture of a reality they already know. Violence in schools is on the rise.
Increasingly, we are seeing incidents of student behavior in kindergarten to grade 8 classrooms that raise safety concerns and serious challenges for us as educators.
The survey found 4 out of 5 members say there are more incidents of violence in schools now than when they started working in the system. Educators working with younger students are more likely to experience violence. 72% say the number of incidents has increased since the beginning of the pandemic.
We have students who are hitting as a way to communicate that feeling of being overwhelmed. It's not a student-specific issue, though. It really is the classes are too big. We don't have the supports that we need.
Teachers say it's not a school-specific issue, it's a province-wide problem. The survey results come as teachers continue negotiating their latest contracts.
We really do need those people support. So we need trained educational assistants in the space. We need professional supports.
A lack of support is also noted by this student who went through the school system in Toronto and is now a part of a community group that works with youth.
Teachers have to understand that a lot of the time, the students aren't really angry with you. They're more angry with their lifestyle and what's happening at home, and they don't know where to put that anger.
Today, the Premier scolded the students who are acting out, while the Minister of Education attributed the violence largely to mental health.
For the kids, man, you guys got to get your act together and don't ever go after a teacher.
We've seen an increasing level of mental health challenges right across society, and that manifestation is impacting schools. It's why the government on April 24, just weeks ago, announced a $24 million investment specifically related to safety in schools.
Rahim hopes students going through the system now and in the future have better access to more holistic supports.
These resources are extremely important, and when you don't have them, there's no outlet for that anger that builds up through the trauma. If you can get them at the younger ages and teach them that there's a value in their life, you can really change a community that way.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
There was a different sort of mother celebrated in Windsor this weekend. A gathering took place to commemorate the beauty and diversity of mother tongues. It was put on by the Bangladesh Canada Association, and artists from a range of cultural groups performed on Saturday at the Kaboto Club. Those included people from the Oneida and Mohawk nations, China, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Iraq, Iran, the Philippines, and many more. Still to come here on CBC Windsor News Live at 6. Lots of sunshine in the forecast, but the temperature does dip a bit as we progress. Colette Kennedy has those details for you coming up next. Just another sign that spring is here. Our city is blooming with an explosion of color, but we're certainly not the only spot. Check out these tulips popping up just north of Ottawa.
My name is Sandra Bebbington. I am the owner of the Van Cleek Hill Tulip Fields, and we have been open for 2 years. These are one of my favorite. These are called Blueberry Ripple. I love the striations on the inside. Like if you get up close to the inside of these tulips, it looks almost like the purple's been painted. The inspiration came from a few different things. It came from a visit in Holland and seeing the fields and there, as well as my husband imports fresh cut flowers, so he was already in the flower business, but this is a whole other ball game. It's very different. One of the challenges is the size of the field. It's a relatively small farm field, so we are a little limited in terms of how many we can grow, as well as looking at our crop rotation. So hence the boxes that we're working with. That's our experiment for this year. On the field, we actually have all Canadian bulbs, and in our planters are all our bulbs from Holland. So as you come through the gates, you will see 300 and about 15,000 tulips. I'd say about just over 50% of them are in bloom at the moment. They bloom, we have early bloomers to late bloomers so that we can maximize about a 2-week season. There's also a patio for you to enjoy some drinks and or some local pastries and ice cream if you'd like, and just enjoy the view and the happiness that just comes with being outside in this beautiful weather and seeing all this color.
In other news, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was briefed on the wildfire situation in Edmonton today by members of the Canadian Armed Forces who are helping fight the Alberta fires. Trudeau thanked them for their efforts.
It's significant in the situation in Fox Creek. It's challenging, so I'm glad you're going there.
Absolutely, sir. Happy to help.
Now, Canadians will be happy to see you.
Sir.
There are about 300 members of the military supporting about 1,500 firefighters. There are 86 wildfires across parts of the province, and 24 are burning out of control. More than 19,000 people have been forced to flee. Hot, dry, and windy conditions have been fanning the flames. Residents in Rainbow Lake and Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation in northern Alberta are among the latest to be told to pack their things and leave. A vast majority of Alberta is under an extreme fire risk. And Colette Kennedy joins us live now for a local look at weather. Colette, terrible to see what's going on out there in Alberta.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we know they've had the weather conditions where all this heat has just been building. We've seen it through the weekend. Today and tomorrow, kind of the peak, and then it should be at least adjusting or the ridge kind of weakening so the temperature's not extreme. We know it's a problem in BC as well, but just showing you the current temperatures. There's low 30s in Fort McMurray right now in northern Alberta. This isn't the daytime high. They're not there yet because obviously it's a little bit earlier in the afternoon still there. And the other thing, seeing a lot of that smoke from the fires that have been pushing. They're in northern Ontario, that smoke, and into portions of eastern Ontario and Quebec. Well, our winds are going to be changing direction here near the Great Lakes, and we're going to find some of that smoke. Again, it's in the upper atmosphere, so it's not so much a respiratory problem for us, but we're going to find some of that coming back into our skies, into southwestern Ontario and eastern Ontario more so over the next couple of days as our winds change direction. And then showing you the current temperatures across the region. So this is where all the heat is, and comfortable in central areas, and then cool. St. John's was 8 degrees if you didn't catch it there. And there it is, 22, 19 for Chatham-Kent. You see when you get into a little bit of the green close to that lake shore with the breeze, the temperatures are a little cooler and it feels a little bit cooler too. Now we have clear conditions through the overnight. We're going to find our winds though start to kick up tomorrow from the west first of all, and then they're going to shift more towards a northwesterly flow. So where the active weather is along this frontal boundary here into northern Ontario and hugging the border with Quebec, well, that's going to start to sink a little bit. So we'll see some increasing cloudiness coming our way, not a lot, and a chance for a sprinkle, but I'm keeping most of that into eastern Ontario. Could pick it up perhaps around the Niagara region. It's not very likely we would see anything here. So just know that we've got the clouds coming and those winds coming. And yeah, the temperature is going to be adjusting a little bit too behind that front. It's not too significant, but I want to show you because I want you to see some of these overnight readings we have coming our way too. Now tonight, still mild, lots of double digits, around 9 degrees though there for London with those clear skies. Tomorrow, still on the mild side until that front moves through and we get into that new parcel, that new air mass. But then 7 degrees Tuesday night. Look at the daytime high on Wednesday, but look at Wednesday night. So if you've bought any potted plants and maybe you got them out or purchased some of your saplings or whatever, you may need to protect a few things because we're not quite there yet when we're going to be seeing some overnights like this. Looking towards the holiday weekend though, Jason, those temperatures coming back up.
I know, and I have to say, Colette, these temperatures we're seeing today and tomorrow are spot on, so I thank you for that. And I know my kids certainly thank you because my wife sent me photos of them out in the sprinkler in the backyard today, and I said, that's a bit early, but clearly not.
Yes, I've only sent my dog through at this point. He's got the fur, right? Good for them. I'm glad to hear it.
There we go. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
And we'll have some more news for you coming up right after the break. Stay with us. Canada's Stanley Cup drought continues. With last night's elimination of Edmonton, the last Canadian team standing, hockey fans are today marking a dubious milestone. 30 years since a Canadian team hoisted hockey's biggest prize. Travis Danrush has more.
They were not supposed to be one of the favorites.
30 years. 30 long years.
In Montreal, the Canadians win the Stanley Cup.
June 9th, 1993, that was the last time a Canadian team hoisted the cup. The Habs victorious that night in history. Over the weekend, dreams were dashed for both the Leafs and Oilers fans. Explanations as to why are endless.
Bad coaching, they didn't have heart. Maybe it's a curse. Maybe it's like a Boston Red Sox curse. I don't know. I just know, God, it's frustrating.
This hockey analyst says both teams had depth, both had star power, but were lacking in one key area.
If you look, in the last 10, 15 years, you can't really name a Stanley Cup champ that didn't ride a hot goaltender all the way to the finals. So I think that both of the Canadian teams who had the most success this year struggled a little bit on the goaltending end.
There have been some close calls. Calgary in 2004, Edmonton in 2006, Ottawa the year after that, then Vancouver in 2011, and Montreal just 2 years ago, all lost in the final. At a postseason newser, the Leafs captain didn't get into specifics.
Obviously, winning is extremely difficult. We're continuing to find our way through that and do what's necessary.
The Golden Knights have eliminated the Oilers in 6 games to advance to the Western Conference Final.
That may not sit well with impatient fans, but others are already looking at the bright side.
The last Canadian team, you know what I mean? Go Oilers. Even though we lost, go Oilers, and we're looking forward to it next year. Yes, sir.
As players lick their wounds, management regroups, and analysts pore over the stats, the end of hockey season has come to Canada weeks early. The Stanley Cup final to be played south of the border once again. Travis Danrush, CBC News, Toronto.
And that's it for us here at CBC Windsor News live at 6. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, though, for news anytime, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. And don't forget to check us out on social media as well, Facebook and Instagram. Thanks so much. Have a great night.